Good evening, good evening. We're here live at the Studio Cafe on Main Street in Woburn Center. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Chris DeMayo. I'm the Executive Director of Know Your Neighbor Woburn. We are delighted to have this community together tonight to share some stories and some experiences, all of the beautiful journeys and experiences of coming to the United States and settling in Woburn, the joys, the challenges, the trials and tribulations. I have just the duty to introduce you to our program host for this evening, who will facilitate and guide our conversation with our guest speakers. Miss Jessie Wetzel has stepped in at the 11th hour. Thank you, Jessie.
My pleasure.
To serve as our program host tonight. Jessie is an immigrant from faraway Michigan and part of Indiana, I think, on the way, right?
That's right.
She is an active and wonderful member of our community who serves on our school committee. Jessie is a veteran of the United States Army, and not long after she left the Army, she heard the call to education, where she earned a graduate degree in education and specializing in education for the visually impaired. She has taught and been a member of the faculty at the Perkins School for the Blind. And now her full-time job, well, she has two jobs, right? She has her beautiful, beloved husband, John, and 3 girls that keep her busy like 18 hours a day.
Awesome.
And we are delighted to introduce Jessie Wetzel. Take it away, Jessie.
Thank you, Chris. That was a great introduction. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone here in the audience, to Woburn Public Media for filming this, of course to Chris and Danielle for opening Studio Cafe, for us to be here this evening. And of course, our wonderful panelists up front, which I've had the pleasure of meeting before this, as well as getting to know some of them through the campaign process and reading their bios beforehand. So I'm very excited for you to get to know more about them here tonight. So I'm first going to introduce to my left, Miss Maria Teresa Nagel, and she hails from Costa Rica and Nicaragua. She came to Woburn several years ago and has settled here with her beloved Jonathan and their 2 children, ages 3 and 5. Although one of her children is actually turning 3 this weekend, so there's a huge birthday party planned. I was talking with her this morning about it. Maria's journey has taken her from her native Costa Rica to Panama, Mexico, and Nicaragua as a child. Absolutely. Maria has studied extensively throughout Central and Latin America and the United States and completed her postgraduate degree in Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy in 2019. There, she focused on migrant policy in the Americas and development of economics. Maria is deeply engaged in community building and community service, both in Woburn and throughout the region, and has applied her extensive lived experience and academic study to drive initiatives that address immigrants' needs and to support their aspirations and integration into American life. As a director of the City of Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs, she collaborates with city departments and community partners, contributing to strategic decisions that advance the well-being of our local communities. A much sought-after speaker who loves to talk about the power and contributions of the immigrant community, Maria is also a candidate for the Woburn School Committee in the November 2025 election, which is November 4th. And so, Maria, I've got to know you a little bit these past few months, and so my first question for you is, you've traveled and lived in Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, and Mexico, and of course the United States. What was it like growing up in several Latin American countries, and what did you learn from these experiences?
Yes, well, speaking into there we go. Everyone here, well there, amazing. Thank you so much, Jessie. It is a pleasure to be with all of you here today. And yeah, traveling and moving around as much as I did as a kid was awful when I was a kid. Being moved from one school to the next, forging those relationships that you thought you were going to see for a lifetime, and then having to move to the next country. And obviously, as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, we didn't have smartphones, nor should a 7-year-old be walking around with a smartphone. So it's not like I was able to keep a lot of those relationships. But perhaps the most incredible thing was seeing how, as a kid, when you're having to do this so often, you start to develop this ability to grow deep roots very quickly and to really learn and savor what that next place has to offer you. Because you have to, right? I mean, you're moving. that's what's going to happen. It's not like you're going to convince your parents otherwise. And you end up being pleasantly surprised at each turn about what new community, what new school, what new friends, what new culture, what new foods. Foods have always been very exciting to me. And I think that in that beauty of how you build that resilience, how you build that capacity to savor each moment and everything that a new community has to offer you, you also start learning just the beauty and diversity of people and what each individual has to contribute into these new communities that they bring, and their experiences, and how much like mine, they were bringing a whole history and a whole story to what they were doing. So I think that that was one of the biggest lessons as I was growing up, and then that I now carry with me, and that I've seen also in Woburn. I mean, I've been here a short amount of time, and the way that the community has embraced me has been incredibly beautiful. And yeah, I'm very lucky to be here.
Well, we're lucky to have you. It sounds like you've really developed a positive outlook too on the times that you moved, and I love that you mentioned food. That's also something important in my household, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And as you travel, getting to experience all these different cultures and foods, it can be fun and something I think positive. So thank you. All right, next up we have Dr. Samadrita Bhattacharya, and she's from India. She was born and raised in the eastern region of West Bengal, India. Bilingual in English and her native Bengali from birth, she was raised in a highly educated and affluent Brahmin family of doctors and engineers. Educated in strictly disciplined Catholic schools and socialized in the extreme caste and classism of her ancestral home. From an early age, she aspired to reach for the sky and became interested in Western pop culture and education, and developed a strong passion for human rights, women's rights, and social justice. In her high school and college years, she began to yearn to study abroad, discovering that she did not want to follow in her family's path. She completed her undergraduate and postgraduate studies at St. Xavier College in Calcutta, while studying abroad in Minnesota and Wisconsin in the United States. She searched for opportunities for doctoral studies in the U.S. and entered a University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center, where she earned her PhD in genetics in 2019. She lived in Texas for 7 years, where she met her beloved Dylan, who is described as a Texas boy, but not a cowboy. Following her studies, her career path led her to Boston, where she has worked as a senior scientist in the biopharmaceutical industry in cardiometabolic immunology and neuromuscular space for the past 5 years. She and Dylan settled in Woburn in 2021, where their daughter was born in 2024. Sam has also had a lifelong passion for study and performance of Indian classic music and dance. She's recently co-founded the Woburn-based Souls of India, Indian Arts Collaborative, with her friend and colleague, Ms. Meghna Banerjee. Their mission is to elevate Indian classical art into the community through innovative production and collaborating with dancers, musicians, and vocalists across genres to tell stories rooted in Indian heritage and culture. So it sounds like a lot of phenomenal, exciting, and you have a 14-month-old at home, so a lot going on. But my first question for you is, Sam, you were raised in a highly educated family and educated in a strictly Catholic school in an extreme caste and classism of the region. What are some of your early memories growing up and the experiences that shaped and influenced you as a child and inspired your aspirations as a young adult?
I do sleep, guys. I do have time to sleep. Thank you so much for that introduction. I was feeling very cringy when all of this is being read out in front of such amazing people. So thank you again. Yeah, I think growing up, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, but in India there is still a lot of caste system. So, and unfortunately or fortunately, I come from a Brahmin family, which is the, top caste. So what I had, very early on realized that there is a lot of unnecessary and forced sort of categorization of people from different backgrounds just based off of your last name. That really kind of put that in my head that I do not want to be in a society. I do not want to be in a system where it is just going to judge you based off of your last name. I think that is when I sort of decided that if, for example, I'll give you a very easy example. So when you enter a med school in India, you are basically just judged based off of your last name first, and then comes your scoring in your entrance examination, like the equivalent of MCAT. That is not your first parameter. So your credibility or your performance at the exam is not the only determining factor for your admission in a school. It's your last name. So by the time the exam score gets into account, many people have already lost their opportunity that year to get into a med school if they really wanted to pursue medical education or engineering or any field. You can name any field. So I kind of realized that I do not want to belong to a system where you are just categorized based off of your last name. So I think that is also why I did not want to follow my family path, because I knew that my last name would just be kind of always biting my back. And I think, that was a very easy example for me that, if you're good in academics, you're kind of pushed into, either medical school or engineering or being a lawyer or a teacher. These are very ranked order system of stratification in Indian communities that, oh, you're born in a doctor's family, you're supposed to be a doctor. You're born in an engineer's family, you're supposed to be an engineer. There are no other choices. So I kind of very early on, I think, started ingraining in my parents' brains that I do not want to do this. They really tried pursuing and being persistent. But yeah, I think I was quite sure of what I wanted, and I think they also started believing in the belief that I had and the plan that I had to what they call I eloped. So I had a very strong plan to elope that system. And I think, yeah, I think I did fine.
I would say so.
So yeah, I think, these are very easy examples. I can go on, but caste system has really affected a lot. And, not just you would think, right? It's kind of like, I think, very similar to racism. You think that the highest caste of people would get only advantages, but it's not true. Like, the quota or the caste system also really bites if you were to call, like, it just really fractionates the society unnecessarily. So I think that was a very easy and apparent observation that I made as I was just growing up in that system.
I would say maybe easy to make the observation, but quite the rebel to really go against what everybody else around you was doing.
Yeah, I have been a rebel all my life.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just, I married a Texan man. It's a lot, but I think, again, my parents have been, I think that they have been quite liberal. With, of course, like when I said that I ate beef for the first time as a Brahmin, you cannot touch beef because my family is Hindu by ancestry. So we worship cows. You're not supposed to eat beef. So when I first told my mom that, I ate an amazing juicy burger, she was like, oh, what, chicken burger? I'm like, no, Mom, burgers are not made of chicken. It's called sandwich here. So she was traumatized. She was really traumatized. But I think now she understands. And, like my daughter is born, she's still like, is she already eating beef? Is she starting? I'm like, yes, she's Tennyson. Her last name is Tennyson. She will eat. So, like a lot of things. But yeah, I think they have. What will they do with 34-year-old woman?
Not much, honestly. Thank you. That was fabulous. Made me laugh. And I think you're doing great. I definitely had to Google your job and what you do when I was reading it. So I would say you're doing fantastic. So thank you for your work. And last but certainly not least, my end, Mr. Mehmet Doğan. He is from Turkey. He journeyed from his ancestral home in Western Turkey as a young man to pursue postgraduate studies at Boston University. Born into a family of hardworking, blue-collar workers that highly valued education, Mehmet was fascinated and drawn to math and science and technology at a very early age. Following a high school program in math and science, he entered Belkent University, a private college in Ankara, on a full scholarship, and he studied physics and thrived academically and socially. His path to advanced science and study led him to Boston in 2000, where he earned a PhD in physics. A brilliant scientist and researcher, he worked for over a decade in research and development, and he centered on laser science for military and defense applications. More recently, he has moved into commercial development and works for a Boston-based 3D printing technology developer and manufacturer. Deeply committed to multicultural community building, he has volunteered at Boston Dialogue, an interfaith community organization striving to build community programs and events. In addition, he has been involved with several humanitarian aid initiatives providing food assistance to families in need in the greater Boston area. Mehmet and his family have been living in Woburn since 2010. So the longest of our group here, longer than me as well, actually. I moved in 2015. So my question for you, what are some childhood experiences that shaped your career dreams and love of math and science? I understand your parents encouraged and supported you to get the best education. As an example, they brought you a computer when you were in middle school, thinking it would help you with your schoolwork. Can you tell us more?
Yes, definitely. First of all, I'd like to thank Chris for organizing these events, and thank you all for coming over tonight. So as you read my bio, let me start with a little further back to set the stage so you know a little better about me. I was born in Turkey, in Western Turkey, to a blue-collar working family. But my ancestors also are immigrants within Turkey. Back in the old days, late 1800s, they used to live in the Balkans in Bulgaria. During the decline of the Ottomans, they had to retreat back to Turkey. So they settled in villages around the city I grew up in. So my grandparents were farmers. They were living in the villages, and they did not really have formal education in the sense that we know of. As a matter of fact, they didn't really know how to write and read. This I'm talking about early, 20s, 30s, 40s. They had difficult times back then, the First World War and then the Second World War. They went through difficult times, especially in the villages. And then they decided to move again for a better life, for their kids as well. So they moved from the villages to the city, the city I grew up in. And that's where my parents grew up. And my parents are the first generation people who started living in the city. My parents did a little better. They got some education. Back then in Turkey, the mandatory education level was 5th grade. After 5th grade, you were free to just leave school, start working. So that's what my parents did. My father, after 5 years of education, he started working, and my mother didn't want to. It was also difficult for women to continue education back then. But they grew up in the city. Although they had this, lack of formal, complete, high school level or college level education, they always valued education a lot. They wanted their kids to get the best education. So that anecdote you just mentioned, my father buying a computer, so not knowing that, he thought that would help us with our schoolwork, not knowing that we would be playing video games on it, right? So back then, this is like early 90s, and the computers, even in the US probably, computers were not in the homes, right? So, you would see computers at, maybe banks or official buildings or government offices. So my father had that vision, I think, that he would think, okay, if I buy a computer for the kids, they would, use it to use for their schoolwork. Uh, and we started playing video games. And my mother was also, very careful about it. And after seeing us playing a lot of video games, like the kids that do today, she put screen time to us, and we were not allowed to play video games during the weekdays. And the issue was that over the weekends we were hijacking the TV set because the computer didn't come with a screen. So probably my dad regretted buying that computer to us for us. But joke aside, I was able to do some work with that computer, learned how to code. I was, teaching myself how to do things with a computer. And so my parents were always supportive of, my education going forward. The other thing I remember, another anecdote maybe, or a memory, is that we were visiting a close relative of us in a neighboring city, and we were just passing by a bookstore, and I saw a book called, I don't remember the exact name, it was something like multiplying like large numbers in your head. And I said, okay, I want to buy this book. Dad, can we buy it? And then the store was closed. We couldn't buy it. I was sad. But after that, I don't know how he found it. Maybe it was on the newspaper or somewhere. He found the author's name and contact information. And we wrote a letter to the author and sent money. And then he sent the book back to us. And so I guess I had my own interest in these issues like math and science and how things work. I was all right with bio, but I didn't like dealing with mushy stuff, I think. I like to, just joke aside, didn't want to be a doctor or, really pursue more like physical things. So I think the summary I can make from my childhood experience was that my parents were really supportive of me and pursuing this, and also I had some interest in these topics as well. I remember going to the newsstand right across our apartment building and buying this popular science magazine every month religiously, and reading it all over. So I think I had some interest in that myself, and my parents, although they didn't have the formal education, they wanted us to pursue that, and they always supported us in that effort.
That's amazing. They sounded like wonderful people, obviously very supportive of you.
Yes.
I got a lot of laughs internally in my head about the computer. It reminded me when we got our computer, I don't know, mid-90s, something like that. And it was dial-up, of course, like everybody's. And we all like gathered around this one giant machine and just like stared at it. It was funny, and played video games. I don't think much learning happened on my computer either. But it was good your mom put some screen time rules up,
Yes.
as we do now too, as parents. Thank you for sharing that. So, Ms. Teresa, we're going to go back to you. My next question is, you've done extensive postgraduate studies in migration policy and economics, and you work every day with immigrant communities. Talk about the inherent drive and ambition in the immigrant community to engage in education, activism, business, and economic development and culture.
Yeah, if we had more time and if I could take up all of the time here in the panel, I would probably engage you all and ask you how many people you think around the entire world migrate. But because we don't have that time, I'm just going to give you the answers. And people are generally very shocked to learn that if you consider the entire world, less than 4% of the world has migrated out of their home countries. And that is, we're talking over the past 50, 70 years, it's always been very low. And the reason for that is that leaving your home is incredibly difficult. You require a lot of things. You require a very good reason, because why would you leave the comforts of everything that you've ever known, your culture, your language, your religion, your what you look at when you look outside the window? I would not do well in Texas, for example. I grew up with mountains. I need to see mountains. I need to see green. But you would leave everything behind. So there has to be a compelling reason for you to do that. You also have to have resources because you might really want to leave a place, maybe a worn, torn country, maybe leaving because you and your family are being persecuted. But if you don't have the resources, the money, the connections, the know-how, you're never going to leave that place. So it takes a very, very particular type of personality to be able to actually leave your country. That means that you are essentially filtering for a lot of qualities in immigrants. And remember that compelling reason that I was talking about? And as I was mentioning from my own experience, that ability that you gain, particularly when you migrate as a child, to build roots, to learn about the positives of the new place that you're going to call home. All of that comes to a head when we look at the immigrant communities here in the United States, and that I've had the enormous pleasure and honor of serving in various capacities throughout my career, because you see people that are deeply committed to truly building a better life for themselves and their families. You hear of people who are blue-collar workers who are really trying to get a computer so their kids can play video games. It's very important. And so these are the types of things that immigrants are up against daily, which is why we end up getting involved in activism, in politics, in trying to make our community stronger and better, because we know what we've had to leave behind. So we know we're going to make this worth it, right? And I think that that's been one of the most motivating things to learn in my work and to just witness day in and day out, because I think that the narratives that we hear daily would have us believe something very different. They would have us believe a mob of people are coming and invading our country. It's not a mob. It's actually quite a small number of people. But also, it's people that really punch above their weight. It is, a much greater percentage of contributions to what are called unicorn startups, right? These $1 billion startups. It is contributions in technology, in science, in art, in so many different realms that we see that we wouldn't have. It is enjoying so much delicious food. Can you imagine what we'd left with without immigrant cuisine? I don't know that I could eat any of it, quite frankly. But these are the types of beauties that you encounter when you embrace what is different and you remain open to learning a little bit more about what brings people here, and why it is that there's this just inherent drive, because there's been so much that has had to happen for someone to be in this country. So yeah, I think it's a good lesson to all of us to just learn and inquire and be grateful.
That was a beautiful, thoughtful response. Thank you. And 4%, that's worldwide, correct? Wow.
Worldwide.
I do think that deserves a round of. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was really, it was amazing.
Educational.
Very educational, touching, and inspired. Thank you. Next, Matt, we're moving down to you.
Okay.
Tell us about your journey to the U.S. for advanced study and how you've been able to contribute to your adoptive country after settling here in Woburn.
Yeah, so I think my journey starts with my second year in college. I was studying physics, and the college I went to was a private college back in Turkey. But the class we had in physics department were only 15 people, and there was this tradition that the graduates were mostly applying to U.S. colleges for postgraduate work, and we kind of knew what we were going to be doing right after that point. So we had senior friends coming to the U.S. already. So out of my 15, friends, I think 10 of them came to the U.S. to pursue graduate level education here. So that's how I started, and I really didn't have any idea where I would be going growing up in the middle school or high school. the coming to the U.S., that notion started to come up in college, and so I applied and got accepted to several programs, but Boston was, a big city. I thought I could fit better. I thought, there would be more Turkish people, maybe, or more immigrant, support. So I decided to come here, and back in 2000, I started at Boston University. And 2 years later, I met my wife, so we got married. And then after finishing my schoolwork, and I started working. So that transition is you mentioned, uh, kind of was easy for me in a sense that I knew what to do, where to apply, how to come. But financially, it wasn't as easy. Um, so, you know, I got the acceptance, which is great. I got scholarship. I would be like a teaching assistant. That's great. But you know, how are we going to afford to buy the ticket to come to the U.S., right? So again, my parents were not, poor, or they weren't very rich, or they weren't poor. They were a middle class family. But back in the time, the conversion rate for the currency was really bad. So my father had to sell his beloved second motorbike to buy me a ticket to come over here, and then really borrowed some money from relatives to at least cover the first month until I start getting paid. And so Boston, right, in 2000, I come to Boston. Even in Turkey, I didn't look for a housing, right? So I just went to college, stayed in a dorm, and I'm here looking for an apartment to live in Austin, close to Boston area. It's like terrible. I came to the Boston area early August, and then I'm trying to find an apartment for September. And then they were telling me, you got to give us like first month's rent, last month's rent, realtor's fee, and deposit. So I only had like $1,000 or so. I thought, that would be enough for me for the first month. They were asking for $4,000. And then we had to borrow more money from friends. So I remember the first year, I was getting paid like $1,300 per month. And by the time I paid my rent and then, just paying back the loan, I only had like $100 left or something. I just don't want to make it like dramatic, but it wasn't, super easy. I just want to mention that. I had, I started learning English when I was 12 through school, and the college I went to was also in English. But that English is different than this English, right? So I came to Boston area, and I was only understanding like 60% of what people were saying. And I also had to teach, right? So I passed the test. I was able to speak, but certain words I didn't understand. I was in one class. I was helping students in college. One of the girls came up. Said, "Are you Turkish?" I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" "Oh, my boyfriend speaks just like you." And I was walking in the hallways of Boston University, and some guy just said, "Blah blah 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 blah." I said, "Sorry, I don't know." I didn't answer his question. I was just, I didn't know what he was saying because I didn't understand anything. Anyway, so I picked up later on, but as I said, in some aspects it was relatively easy. Some people talk about cultural shock. I think I didn't have that. I think I had that support as I came here. As I mentioned, I had friends, and I was able to, get some support from those friends as well. And then, started working, at the university and trying to finish up my degree. I got married, and then, the kid, my daughter was born even before I graduated. It was also tough. So coming back to the question you just mentioned about, how I was able to contribute to the society. So, through my, career, I was able to work in, during my graduate studies, wrote a lot of technical papers and contributed in that sense that developed certain techniques for biology-related work for microscopy. That was my thesis. And then I moved into more laser-related work for the military applications. and we developed certain, some technology that was delivered to some labs, actually, MIT Lincoln Labs and places in Albuquerque, Kirtland Air Force. So, and lately I've been working on 3D printers. But at the same time, I also was involved in the community, as you just mentioned. I think I had that obligation to give back to the community because, coming here, getting the education, getting the scholarships, I had to pay back. That was my intention. And I've been volunteering, with Boston Dialogue, and lately we have been organizing fundraiser events and bringing funds to buy. As an example, we did like a couple of events in Revere, Chelsea, Everett, and Lynn to buy turkey and then distribute it to families who couldn't afford, and they were able to come and pick those up. And the last recent one was we did a fundraiser to help the veteran community in Woburn, and we delivered some market basket gift cards to the Veterans Office last year. So yeah, so I'm excited about the opportunities that may come up, especially with Chris, hopefully, in the next term or next year or so. So that was my, I guess, contribution, I could say.
Well, it sounds like you came from a very strong, close-knit family, a lot of good friends, and then came here and are building that community
Right.
for yourself along with your family. So I think that's really inspiring. Was it hard when you left and came here? I know you came with some friends, but to leave your parents who you had been with and family members?
Yes, it was hard. That was the first time I left their house to go to college. But my first time leaving the country was coming here. And of course I was missing them. And then back then there was no, stable internet. I don't know if you remember, there was this 10-10-220. You would call the number and then you would talk to your parents for 10 minutes for $10, something like that. So yeah, it wasn't easy. The coming here the first time was kind of exciting because you're coming to a new place, and it was everything is new. My parents were asking, not knowing about the U.S. The only thing they know about the U.S. is through TV shows or like movies. Said, how is the U.S. like? And they call it, how is America like? They call it America. I said, okay, let me think. I said, everything is big. That was my response. The people are big, roads are big, cars are big, meals are big. I think that's how I summarize it. Anyway, so yeah, so it was, initially it was exciting. And then the hardest part was when I first went back to Turkey for a summer vacation and came back. That was, I think, the hardest time of my time here. Leaving everybody there, all the vacation and everything, coming back to study. Yeah, and then again, I had friends, and luckily I met my beloved wife, so everything was smoother after that.
Excellent. Well, we're very glad you're here. And Sam, this actually bigger and better sort of makes me think of Texas, right? So, Sam, you sought higher education opportunities in the United States and aspired to study biomedicine and become a scientist. Tell us about that journey from studying abroad in the upper Midwest to landing in Dallas for your doctoral studies.
Yeah. Again, I think Chris mentioned a little bit, and even Jesse mentioned, I was really interested in the American pop culture. I think I was just growing up. I'm a 90s kid, exactly born in the 90s. I still remember one of my cousins, he burnt me a CD with Bryan Adams and Hotel California, Summer of '69, and Eagles songs. Like, it was a CD with 10 major songs from the West. It also included Enrique Iglesias. So one song from Rihanna. So, like I was just like, okay, and one song from Green Day, Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Great song.
Oh my gosh. So, so those 10 songs really, like, I learned the lyrics. So, what I used to do is I used to listen to a lot of just American accent. And, I think in my bio, you all heard that I was, again, I have to thank my parents that they chose all Italian non-Christian missionary school in the middle of a very small town in West Bengal. So I was kind of like rebuked and punished if I did not speak in English from the age of 4. We were punished, like, literally, like hitting with a ruler on your knuckles would be the punishment if any student would not speak English. So I think just giving a little backdrop of how I was trained and got interested in English, and just, it was more British influence, but, British is West when you compare it to Indian subcontinent. So, this growing up in a Catholic missionary school, I learned more about the Bible because we used to have regular Bible lessons. So I don't even know my own Hindu Bhagavad Gita, but I know more of Bible. So I think it was just, by fortune or by way of how and when I went to school, it just started getting ingrained in me that I really connected much more with the thoughts, the beliefs. And I think back in the day, in the East, West always looked cooler because there was much more, like liberal. It was much more free. It was much more independent. So I always connected with those, virtues of life. I really wanted to be independent, and wanted to go out there and build a life for myself instead of just always being in the shadow of being called my father's daughter. Because, when you're born in an affluent family, you kind of always have to be in their shadows. So yeah, I think again, just growing up, that English kind of became a kind of reflex for me. So that sort of really, within 7th grade, I knew that I had to really come to the West. So thankfully I was good in academics. So I pursued academics to a point where I started looking for opportunities, where I used to visit just the British consulate and American embassy throughout my high school and college. I also went to an all Jesuit Fathers college, which was right next door to the US Embassy and British consulate. So, it's just, I always was, yearning for just opportunities. And, when you really strive hard, I think you can make it work. You just have to keep on and on and on at it. So yeah, I started applying for Fulbright scholarships. There was another Indo-US scholarship program called Corona Scholarship Program. So that brought me to the Midwest. I didn't know what Midwest was, what East Coast, West Coast, all the fights, the little internal fights that, people have. I was like, I'm just going to America. People were like, oh, is it Boston or is it California? I'm like, no, I'm going to Minnesota. I'm going to Wisconsin. I'm going to Illinois. But, I was very, very happy that I got mentored by a very good set of, back in those universities, whoever really mentored me, gave me such a beautiful experience in how research and development was really up and coming. In biomedical sciences. So every semester, pretty much in my undergrad and my master's program, I used to just come and spend a semester. And then again, just getting to know the right schools to apply. And then I had to take this, I think Mehmet was also saying that he had to pass an English test. It's called Test of English as Foreign Language. Yeah. So you're forced to take this test. Now it's not compulsory. Yeah, many institutes are letting go of that because for research, you need more of a scientific and a critical thinking brain rather than just pure English. And you're supposed to learn English words that you will never, ever use again. So, again, so all of these just kind of lined up, and I just took, again, the right steps with the right set of people. I was very fortunate um, to just be surrounded by very good mentors who never left my hands and made my dream come true. Yeah, yeah, so Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and then to Dallas, where I pursued my PhD, the work in cardiovascular genetics. I studied pacemaker in the heart. How does pacemaker work, and what happens when pacemaker cells don't work in the heart, which causes arrhythmia. So I did a lot of work in that area, starting from basic research to translating it into human patients. Yeah, that's pretty much my journey. And then that brought me to Boston to pursue higher and higher ways to give back what I learned and studied and educated myself in, and how to give it back to the community by working in biomedical research.
Very clearly a hard worker. I think your mentors obviously were something special to you, but you should give yourself a pat on the back because you're the one that did everything. You had great support, but you worked very hard to get to where you are, so you should be very proud. And I am from the Midwest, so I can relate. If I was born in Indiana, and then I lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is borderline Canada. I love the East Coast. It's great. It's fabulous. I'm very happy to be here, but the end of the day, the Midwest has a soft spot in my heart because my family's still there, but yes, very different part of the country than this part. Very different.
But I will just have to highlight my time in Texas has been impeccable. Like, I enjoyed my time in Texas. My in-laws, we don't really talk about politics and religion. So we are in a very safe space, and they respect me a lot, and I respect them a lot, and I have been loved, and I think they text me more than they text my husband, so so yeah, I mean, my life in Texas has also really shaped me who I am today, as well. So I'm very grateful for my experience in Texas as well.
And you met Dylan in Texas.
Yes,
And you call him a Texas boy, but not a cowboy.
that's right.
Can you describe and elaborate on that?
Yes, it was very important. Okay, so I also, again, you heard me saying about those 10 songs. None of them included any country song, right? So I knew that I did not like country song, and my husband really, really nailed it down in very early years, formative years of our relationship, that I should not listen to country music. So he really, really, kind of stirred me away from country music. So he doesn't own a pair of cowboy boots or boots, Texas boots, whatever you want to call it. He does not own a hat. So, he's not a typical cowboy, I guess. But yeah, but his whole family is, though. Everybody is very, very, like Texan cowboy with a very thick accent. All of them say y'all. That I learned very well from my in-laws. So yeah, I mean, I think his music genres are something that I think I am just a step beneath. He listens to these hardcore metal music, Slipknot and Korn and Gwar and Job for a Cowboy and all these, crazy metal songs. So I'm not there yet. I don't think I'll ever be there yet. So yeah, so he's very hardcore Texan, but not a cowboy. He introduced me to great food. We loved our time in Dallas. Like, the food is so good. I think that was one of the things that we initially really missed in Boston. But I'm so glad I found Woburn, because Woburn has amazing food. Peppercorn House right next door, Spanish tapas, pinto pinchos, Indian food. Like, it's just, I think Woburn really kind of is that place in our heart because of the food as well. So, but yeah, so he's and also he loves Indian food. So how can I call him a cowboy, right? Like, he eats so many different kinds of food. Like, my in-laws will not touch anything other than, like a burger or a taco or, just some Tex-Mex here and there. They only would like just a little bit of black pepper. Like, they have never tried Indian food. Can you believe it? They have an in-law, their daughter-in-law is Indian.
They're lost.
They're lost, yeah.
He's a rebel, though. It sounds like.
Oh,
like
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Love it.
He went to India within 6 months of dating me. That really affirmed me that, like I should have him for the rest of my life. Like, yeah, he had no passport. I'm like, do you have a passport? You want to come to India? He's like, no, I haven't left Texas in 23 years of my life. So.
Sounds like a cool person. Thank you. So now it's that time of the evening. We can ask audience members if you have any questions for these lovely panelists up front. And we can pass the mic back to you. Don't be shy.
I have a question, and I have a little bit of an advantage because I've had an opportunity to get to know the speakers a little bit these past several weeks. But I am always fascinated by language, the way language and adapting to language, particularly English, and all of the versions of English all around the world. I would love to hear more about how you adapted to English in Boston when you got here. I mean, for Maria Teresa, you studied English, very good textbook English in Latin and Central America. You studied English from birth in India, mostly British English. You studied English in Turkey, and then from Turkey you came to Boston. From India you went to Minnesota, and then Texas, and then Boston. You have lived in Philadelphia, and now Boston. How did you wrestle with and adapt and embrace all of these different dialects of English, particularly the Boston dialect, which you say is the most difficult?
How are ya?
That's good.
But I know there's comedy in your stories of adapting to Boston English.
Yes. I will say, I think I have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the different accents because I am also was a musician. I suppose you should always say once you are,
Yeah.
you were, right? So I still am. So I've always had a fascination with accents. But I will start by saying a good friend of my father's in Costa Rica was thinking of where to send their daughter to really learn and practice English. And so my dad calls me and I told my friend Boston that she should definitely go to Boston because it's beautiful. It's like that British English. And I, of course, laughed and said, no, it is not like British English. And if, she's learning English for the first time, she's going to struggle. When I met my mother-in-law, she's originally from Duxbury, and she has kept her accent, and she has it like really hard. She, to this day, cannot say Maria. Like we've tried, Maria, and she's like, I don't hear the difference, right? And so there are so many things, and it still happens. I mean, I've lived in Massachusetts now since 2013, and there are still some people that if they speak quickly enough to me, or if they're trying to give me certain directions or something, I'm trying to fill in certain words or certain letters that I don't know if they're there or not, and it can be really hard, and it can also be embarrassing, right? Because you don't want to be like, what? Say again? What? And it's a huge challenge. And same goes like New Jersey, that's a whole other beast. Florida, that's a whole other beast. And it can be really hard, but it can also be just so delightful. Just hearing the different words that are used for things, pop and soda and I don't know, all the other words. And the same thing happens in Spanish, where having lived in Mexico, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Panama, I have family in Colombia, I have, family in different places, and we use very different words that will get you into a lot of trouble if used incorrectly. I still remember the story of a teacher of ours from the US who was learning Spanish, and in Nicaragua, a finca is like a farm, kind of, but afincar, so when you add the A in front of a word, it can turn it into a verb, right? So he thought, finca, afincar. Well, he had just met this beautiful woman at a farm, and they had kissed. And someone asked him a few days later, so did you afincar? And he said, absolutely. We were at a farm. Of course we did. She found out and obviously slapped him across the face and said, you don't kiss and tell. But these are the types of things that you have to learn very quickly to adapt to the regional accents and words of any place.
You want to go next?
Yeah, so as I said, I mean, it took me some time to get used to the American English, right? So, and for us, for Turkish people, the sounds are different. I mean, the certain sound, I can say maybe the Turkish sounds are very similar to Spanish sounds. I can pronounce Spanish words easily, but English words are a little more difficult, I think. Certain sounds don't exist in Turkish, and I had that difficult a little bit. And I remember we were just, sitting with a friend. This is my first year here, and and then he was just picking on certain words that we were pronouncing. I said, hey, you don't pronounce that as weave, it's weave. Right? And he repeated the word back. I said, no, it's not that. He said, weave. It took us like, I don't know, 10 iterations to get to that word because there is no distinction between a W and a V sound in Turkish. Everything is V, there's no W. So, and I mean, still, once in a while I make that mistake. You may hear it when I speak. And the other difficulty for me was there is no D in Turkish. D, book, right? There's no word for that. And I always make mistakes when I speak. I forget to put the D in the sentences, or the prepositions are different. So is it, so yeah, but in terms of like accents, I only lived in Boston area. So I moved here to, Boston in 2000, and I always lived here. So I don't really know the other accents. I think this is the American accent. Right? And there's one story that, that didn't happen to me, but one of my colleagues was telling me that story, again, about the Boston accent. And there was this guy she had a very thick Boston accent, and she was telling another employee that the guard downstairs wants to talk to him. He was calling it guard. And she was saying in a way that God wants to talk to you. I said, what? God wants to talk to me?
No.
Yeah, so yeah, there are these kind of little things, that makes
God and guard.
yeah, guard and God, yeah, I have difficulty in sometimes understanding the Southern accent. I don't know, the native, like American-born, U.S.-born people have difficulty maybe too, but I sometimes watch those things and I said, what is he talking about? I have no idea, it's really hard for me. And for someone who learned English later on in life, I also don't pick up subtle differences. To me, it sounds the same. I don't know. Maybe you learn English from an early age, but for me, if somebody says a certain word like a coffee or coffee, to me it registers as just coffee. I don't make a big difference. So I don't pick up those little differences in accents. But if it's a Southern accent versus like the Boston or Midwest, it's clear and it's sometimes hard to understand.
I'll just wrap up I'll pick on a word that Maria used. I'm just delighted. I just enjoy the variety. And I think I like to call myself as like a soaking sponge. I just pick and choose what sounds interesting to my own ears and what flows through my own, like when I speak words. So I have, I think, a weird hybrid of like British, Midwest, Texan, Boston. I don't know what it is. I just enjoy variety, and I'm just delighted. delighted with the variety. That's all.
Yeah, great answers. Thanks, guys. Anybody else? Sir, do you want a microphone or? Okay.
Maybe I can just say, I'll just try here. Immigrants throughout our American history have always been the renewal of our culture and our people and our culture. But right now, there's kind of, it's a different age in politics. And there's the saying that immigrants love America, but America doesn't love them back. So my question is, how is that type of attitude, which is so pervasive and being used politically for political purposes, how do you deal with that? Or do you deal with it, or do you sense it? And do you have any thoughts on how we can help? My grandfather came from Russia, so I'd be a couple generations here. So how we, the neighbors, can be more supportive?
That's a great question.
Yeah. That's a very, very beautiful and, very, very loaded question. I feel that I am probably too young to really uphold the weight of that question. But again, I will pick on my just own personality. I think I have only faced good things in America, and I still believe to this day that from all my experiences in the last 13 years that I have stepped into America, I have never felt as an outsider. So, I wish I had a different answer, but I still think that if I personally felt that my hard work, my characteristics, the way I talk to another person has only and only reciprocated back to me in a very positive and a very nice way. So I have never felt like an immigrant from any of the American connections, family, friends, Woburn, outside Woburn, Texas, Minnesota, in the most country parts of Texas I've been to. I mean, yes, I've gotten a stare or two like, oh, is that a brown lady? But they haven't said that word. I think it has also been ingrained in our own heads that if somebody is staring at me for a couple of seconds, maybe they're thinking that, oh, she's so pretty. Why can't we think like that, also? So I think also I have always been surrounded by people who have made me believe that I am important, I am doing good to the country, I am bringing value, adding, economy to this country. I am here legally, and I've always been welcomed and loved, like a lot. So I still believe that America is still very strong and great.
I've had a different experience. I have been at the receiving end mostly of what we call microaggressions, right? I'm one of the good ones, one of the pretty ones. Oh my God, you're so well educated. You don't even have an accent. It is so incredible that you can speak English so well spoken. If only the other ones could be like you. And I still remember as a little girl when my English didn't sound like this, asking for a sheet of aluminum for my grandma in Florida. And I went up to this man and I said, aluminium, please. And he looked at me and he called people in like, what is this girl what is she even trying to do? It's like, if you only tried just a little bit, maybe you could figure out that I was trying to say aluminum, maybe. And I think that I could sit here and talk about all of the lies, the fake news, the manipulations of the reality that we live, but that's precisely what we shouldn't be doing. And so to your question of what can we do? What can neighbors do? We can speak the truth. We can share the stories. We can talk about how amazing it is that we have these incredible immigrants revolutionizing engineering and science and biomed, and that is the truth. We can talk about how there are immigrants running for office, trying to serve their community. We can talk about how there are immigrants who during COVID laid down their lives to serve those around them, whether it was delivering food in Uber Eats so that we could have a delicious burger from our favorite restaurant and not get sick, or cleaning, or being a nurse in hospitals where people were dying day in and day out, not understanding this vicious virus that was attacking the entire world. That's what we can do. Because it is through the power of knowledge, of seeing each other as the humans that we are, that we can rise together. Division is not going to get us anywhere. And so I love that some of us have had these incredible experiences of embrace and of, belonging. But for the many, many, many hundreds of thousands who have not had that, let's be that.
Yeah.
And rather than fighting back, let's love back. Because for every person that sees an other, for every person that feels threatened and fear, there is pain. And it's legitimate pain. Imagine what you would do if you were told, these people, they're coming to get you, to take your job, to destroy your kids. I'd be scared. I'd be terrified if I didn't know better, right? And we need to understand that. We need to understand that a lot of people are operating on fear and on pain and on not knowing. So let's teach them and let's show them who immigrants are, and let's remind them that much like your parents came from Russia, your parents or your grandparents, unless you are a Native American who was in this land before it was discovered, we're all immigrants. It's just a matter of generation, and it's just a matter of, coming in the right way. The right way has changed. It has morphed into many, many different things, and there is no right way anymore. So let's build it, but let's build it together.
Well said.
Very well put. I don't think I have anything else to say. But I can just speak about my experience. Very similar to Sam, I think I did not really experience much of a negative experience for myself. But I have seen and heard, it also depends on the way you look, from outside. When you look at me, you wouldn't think I'm coming from Turkey. I mean, I could blend in easily. But in the Turkish and Muslim culture, ladies wear, some ladies wear hijab, that they cover their heads. And I have experienced, when I'm next to those ladies and heard the stories of them being treated, little worse than what they should be treated like. So I guess, as Maria was saying, loving and knowing that the neighbors you have who could be wearing hijab or, traditional Indian dress, they have the same aspirations as the people who live here. They are also worried about their, their life, their kids. They want to put their kids through college. They want to earn their living. The joys and the sorrows, they're all the same. We're all the same humans. We're just coming from different backgrounds. That's it. And if we can spread this message to everybody and, knock the doors saying that, oh, welcome to our neighborhood. Sometimes the immigrants are a little shy to reach out. Maybe that could help. Again, we're all the same, and we all have the same, feelings and desires and needs. Nothing else.
Those are great answers.
May I quickly add that this initiative itself, Know Your Neighbor, is what you you're already putting your hand out there. Like, the collaboration with Chris in the last 2 months has gotten so deep. Like, Chris and I are collaborating on so many different levels now to, make a lot of accessible, multicultural arts, community building initiatives by applying for grants, by applying for funding opportunities to just bring the community together. So when there are people like Chris, Maria, Mehmet, everybody in this room, I think we are in the right spot with, just have to grow exponentially rather than just limiting to this room.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, actually. Agreed, 100%. Everyone here should get a round of applause for being here and learning. So thank you, and spread the good word. And Chris, with Know Your Neighbor, we have Woburn Welcomes, we have Social Capital Inc., Council of Social Concern. We have a ton of organizations in Woburn here to help and benefit the community. So please reach out to those as well to learn more about ways to be involved, because I agree it's so important, and that education piece is key, because we're all here for a positive reason and we want to do the right thing. And how are we doing on time, Chris?
We can keep going for a while if there's more conversation.
Fantastic. Another question, please? I have backups in case no one has one, but Mike is yours.
We love talking.
There's no such thing as a city.
I don't like to talk.
Okay, I'll ask a question while you guys think. Okay, this is for everybody. You can answer in order if you'd like. What are some of your experiences of coming to Woburn and settling in our community? Exceptions versus reality, unexpected discoveries, any funny stories you'd like to share?
Okay. Well, I can't think of a funny story, but I feel like we were really welcomed in Woburn. I think I can say that. And especially when you have kids, you're always in the community, right? So your kids are going to soccer games. We have some soccer moms here. Our kids played in the same teams, and they go to Cub Scouts. You work with your fellow parents, and I always felt being welcomed into Woburn, and I think I was fortunate, and I think all of us, I guess, have the same similar experience. But I can't think of a funny experience or story right away. So one reason I think we moved into Woburn was also to fit in. I mean, so we used to live in Melrose, Alston, Malden, and then we had kids. So we wanted to go to a place where we want to raise our kids, a good school system, a good neighborhood. I think we think we did the right choice. I mean, we also couldn't afford to buy a house in Lexington or Winchester or those places. That's also important. Where the kids can fit in is also important. I think we accomplished that in Woburn. There is a mixture of Woburnites who grew up here since their childhood, and there are also like immigrants like us blending really well in Woburn. I think for us it was a very positive experience.
That's great.
So we moved into Woburn beginnings of October of 2021. So it was really interesting though, because here we were, like, this isn't the time to make new friends. And we were always talking about who's in your bubble, right? Like, we were all very, it was almost like the smaller the bubble, the cooler you were, right? So you'd be exchanging bubble names with other friends over Zoom, and like, well, in my bubble, I only have 3 people. Like, I only see these 3 people. And so that was our reality in October of 2021. And despite that, we only had my oldest at the time. I remember our first winter, there was a lot of snow. Our house, our driveway is like, it goes in quite deeply. And the environmentalists that we are, my husband was like, we're gonna get a solar powered snowblower. And it was like, great. Well, that thing did not blow any snow anywhere, right? And so it was awful. The poor man was breaking his back quite literally trying to shovel snow. And by the second time that it snowed, our next door neighbor, who knew nothing about us, came and he had a massive, really powerful snowplow. He everything, right? And it was just such a way of saying, welcome, and I got your back, right? And it was wonderful. Then there was, come Christmas, like a little before Christmas, there's this beautifully packaged spice cake. And again, remember, this is COVID, like, don't take treats from strangers, but it looked so pretty. And we tasted that thing, and it was incredible. It didn't have a note, it didn't have anything, it was just a loaf. Next winter, same thing, a loaf appeared. Then we got on this mission to learn who was this mysterious spice cake maker that was making our Christmases so delightful. And it was like a neighbor down the street who, again, knew nothing about us, was just like, new people. They got a little kid. They probably got a lot going on. Here's a delicious spice cake. It has just been a lot of that. And the more I get to know Woburn, the more, I know I've heard this from a lot of people, like it's a city with a small town feel, right? And it's very much that. The way that people show up, the way that people know each other and know, that's whoever's cousin and great granddaughter and all of these stories is something that I think we really need to continue to foster because it is so powerful and so beautiful. And in times when things get difficult, you want a neighbor with a really cool snowblower that's gonna have your back, literally.
My story is very, again, the way to the heart is through food and through the stomach. So Woburn has a very good Indian restaurant called Godavari. It's in the Cummings Park area. So we when we first moved to Boston from Dallas, we were staying at Assembly Square, which is the gentrified portion of Somerville. And then, again, we moved right around what Maria was talking about just after, COVID, the restrictions were kind of slackening a little bit. And then things were starting to open up. So yeah, and then, within that year, the rent of those apartments just skyrocketed. Like the COVID rates and the rate after when we were going to renew our lease just skyrocketed. And we were like, okay, we need to start looking at places where we will still pay a mortgage, but for a reason, not just to a huge franchise. So we started looking for places to live and places to really settle. And again, we were like, let's try good restaurants with a lot of greenery around. So north was definitely the choice. We also love a little cityscape. So I think Maria just rightly put it, that it's like this secret little spot in the greater Boston area, which still has that suburban vibe, but with, just everything. Like Indian grocery store, Apna Bazaar, like everything. I was like, oh my God, this is like, we have to just be here. So yeah, it was through the food of Woburn that really captured our attention. And we were very fortunate again to have a very good real estate agent who did not push us until we felt very comfortable with, buying a house or, really feeling connected to a property. And then, it again got solidified when our neighbor again just lent out their hands and be like, hey, we are your neighbors. And, and then they are one of our best friends now. So yeah, I think again, just good people. I think just be a good person to the next door or next person. I think is just the key to being happy.
I agree. I agree with Woburn. It's a great community. I moved here in 2015 and don't regret a second. It's been fabulous for my family and I. All this talk though about food is also making me hungry, so I'd like to remind anyone, Studio does have food if you're hungry to get some. I'm now officially starving, but we do have fantastic restaurants in Woburn. I have some friends in Andover, and they'll come down to us to eat because you never have a bad meal in Woburn. So agreed. I think the people are phenomenal. It really is like a small city. I don't even know if a city, a town inside of a big city, and people know everybody. And I love that about Woburn. It reminds me a lot of where I grew up. So thank you. Oh, lovely. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Karim. I'm originally from Egypt. Immigrant myself. I live in Cambridge, and my experience is very similar to all of you. And I have been involved in many immigrant advocacy work, and I have been seeing a lot of fears this past months with everything is going around. So I would like to know from you, is there any initiatives, work you do here in Uber, or you know about it, to support families who are in need, or some of them, a family member or a household who get detained, anything you can share with us?
Thank you for that question, Karim. So again, because of this small town feel, I think Woburn has been really well positioned to step up. I mean, even before all of the federal enforcement started happening, there was a lot of stepping up from different organizations, from SCI, from Know Your Neighbor, from Council of Social Concern, to get food, clothing, assistance of other sorts. Where we're still struggling in Woburn is that initial response. So when someone is detained, we have hours before that person is likely moved through Hanscom Air Base. Am I saying that correctly? Out of state. And the reason to do this is to find a state, not find because they already have them identified, but to send the person to a state where there's going to be a judge that is going to likely rule more negatively against the person's case. And so it's very critical. Also, ICE has recently had practices where they keep people in the car for a little longer so that way they don't have to put them in the system as quickly. There's a lot of other things that they're doing to delay, but again, we have hours. So where we still need to sort of ramp up things in Woburn is having more people who can bear witness in these moments, and not just bear witness, but also be informed on what to do. Because as soon as someone is taken, and I want to be very clear for viewers at home, and for those people viewing who might have other intentions, we cannot interfere. Interference is not an option. And I know that that's usually the first impetus, serve as a human shield. They're just going to hurt you out of the way. The person's going to be taken if they're going to be taken. So interference should not be the option. What is very critical is understanding who is that person and who do I need to contact. Because the sooner that you know who this person was that was detained and who are loved ones that can help get the necessary documentation, that can help so that there's this thing called a habeas corpus, which is something that needs to be filed so that the person cannot be removed and so that they are granted due process before a judge, before their case is dismissed or the person is deported. We need information from someone who has the information, right? At times, what we've received is the detained person's phone number. If this was a classroom, I would ask all of you, why do we think that that's a useless number, right? The person's not going to answer their number. Their phone is going to be removed immediately, right? They're allowed a phone call. They're likely not going to get a phone call, maybe not days and days and days after they've been detained. So again, bearing witness and knowing who to contact is critical. And then we can bring in all these amazing support systems that exist in Woburn so that the family can get the support that is needed. So be informed. There are so many trainings, there's so much information. I am happy to deliver a Know Your Rights training to whomever, whenever. But those are the critical things where we're still missing. But we are in a much better position than a lot of communities that don't have the resources and the response capabilities.
Refer to Maria.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you for that. Anybody else have a question? Actually, Ms. Nagel, if someone did want to get in touch with you about a training, what's the best way to do that?
They can contact me at M as in Maria, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, G as in Goat, E as in Edward, L as in Lewis, that's Managle, 2016 and I'm happy for anyone that tried to catch that just now. I'm happy to give it to you afterwards as well.
Also, Jesse, respond to any of our e-blast emails that you're receiving, or contact me through knowyourneighborwoburn.com, and we will refer you to Maria and other local resources. That's knowyourneighborwoburn.com, or any of the emails that you are receiving from us. And we can connect you to Maria and other local resources. There is a window of opportunity with a neighbor, a friend, one of our children's friends, families that are suddenly in this emergency situation. There's a short window of opportunity when we really can help, particularly to protect the children who are too often separated from their parents. For us, that's the biggest piece of the puzzle that we care about. Children will come home from school. It's happened already in Woburn. I'm not at liberty to name these families. Children are coming home from school and their parents have disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So we can sometimes bridge those gaps with communication so that at least the children know what's going on and they have a safe haven until statutory requirements cause them to end up in the custody of Commonwealth, right? So again, you can go to knowyourneighborwoburn.com, or you can reply to any of the emails that you receive from us, and we'll connect you with Maria and other local resources. Thanks very much, Jesse, for asking that question.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer as well. So we appreciate all your work too, Chris, that you're doing for our community. And know your neighbor. Oh, I see a question in the back.
Loud, big voice.
Yeah. So my question is, as all of you have come to this country at a young age, what advice do you have for young immigrants that have come here, who wants to pursue a better education and excel socially? What advice do you have for them?
Well, I guess, my answer could be very generic. I think I would try to establish, I know it's maybe hard for some people, but try to establish a community, or try to be within a community that, because we don't have our families, like parents or other relatives with us here. So that building of that community around you and trying to do the extra effort to find that community, I think, is a critical one. To have a support structure around you in case, you need something, or you're sick, or, I think that's the very first thing I would suggest, a young person to do. Try to, reach out and try to find a place in a community. I know it's hard sometimes, but to establish that, I think, is very critical in the absence of your family members and other, support structure you're used to in your home country. That could be my one big suggestion.
Yeah, I second to that. And I think, again, it might sound generic, but if you are here for a cause and a purpose, just keep believing in it. Like, just do not give up, even if people try to, defer you in a different direction. So I think that constant belief that you're here for a reason, you're here to do not only good for yourself, but also serving the community in whatever way you can. And again, just surround yourself with, kind, smart, sincere people like Chris. You're already, I think, in the right safe space. So I think, yeah, just keep building that community bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, he's in my scope and he's not getting away.
Yeah, and just echoing that, I think that it would be really good to do some research on what are the organizations of where I'm going, right? Like if you can find Know Your Neighbor and see that that is a place that it really aligns with the type of environment that is going to take you in, that is, what did you just say, Chris? You are in my what?
In my scope.
In his scope. Yes. Find someone whose scope you can be under, because then that will help you build that community, build that support, because otherwise it can get very lonely. Because yes, knowing yourself is important.
Appoint your own mentors.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. Manage up. Say I
Help.
want you to help me. It is incredible how neurologists, neuropsychologists have found that the word help can be so impactful, and sometimes we're so ashamed to ask for help. But if you say to someone, can you help me? Like if that's how you start, for example, on LinkedIn, you want to get an informational interview and you're like, you're so cool. Can you help me? Immediately we jump as humans to respond to the cry for help, and we're like, yes, I can be your superhero. So don't be shy to appoint your own mentors and do that research in advance, just like you would find an apartment and where you're going to live, right? And you need to figure out like what scholarships, what this, what that. Find community before you land so that you have a soft place to land and people around you to remind you what your purpose is, that you belong, and that you will make a difference.
I love that. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, two very quick things that sort of again triggered in my head from some of the pointers that Maria mentioned, is that it's hard sometimes for an introverted person to really seek for that help. So it might not come naturally, but I think just push to get over that little bit of introvert going into extrovertism, and really asking for that help, because most people will, I personally think, will help. And then the other thing I have noticed, and it's not typically buttering the other person, or it's not buttering per se, but if you are asking for help, and as Maria was pointing out, just say that, oh, you are so cool. People like to hear good about themselves. So if you start a conversation with, oh, I read about you on these things. Can you elaborate on that about yourself? And then sort of try to come up with what you could also get from them. So just trying to kind of uplift their morale by showing that you already know about them and they feel good about it. So I have seen that works 99.9% of the time. People like to hear good about themselves.
100%. And asking for help also helps build trust with the other person that you're asking, so that helps build up that relationship. And agreed, complimenting somebody is the way to start a conversation. And don't be afraid to do that either, because oftentimes you'll walk by somebody, maybe they smile at you, maybe they don't, but you can be the first one to say hi.
Yeah.
You can be the first one to do something. Somebody else doesn't have to initiate. So I think that's important to remember too. It's a great question.
Thank you all very, very much. I think we're coming to an end now. What a beautiful evening of connection, of love, of kindness. I want to just say a few thank yous. Thank you to Danielle and Christopher Titus, our hosts, and the owners of the Studio Cafe. We're at the Studio Cafe here on Main Street near Woburn Center. And this is a delightful place for us to gather as a community to share these beautiful conversations. Thank you to our marvelous speakers. Annette and Sam, Maria Teresa and Jesse for leading our conversation today. One of my jobs, somebody has to do it. If you can pitch in to help us fund future events, we have QR codes here to make a donation very easily. We also have a donation box. If you'd like to help us, that would be very much appreciated. And don't forget to sign up for the mailing list so you can learn more about these programs that are ongoing here in our community. Our multicultural holiday celebration, which is one of our largest events of the year, is coming up on Sunday, November 30th at the Boys and Girls Club. We're very grateful for the Boys and Girls Club for hosting this year. We're beginning to plan already multicultural events for next spring, including a community iftar dinner in collaboration with our Muslim community that I'm very excited about. I've only been working on it for 2 years. And we'll have more sharing our stories gatherings later this fall and in the winter. So to all of you, good night and thanks for being with us.